$20 bill and promptly died of a fentanyl OD, or at least that's what the medical examiner apparently determined. I don't think we're allowed to say that on TV, but anyway, he died. And in response to his death, St. George Floyd's death, Democrats encouraged riots all over the country. They bailed out criminals. They paid for the whole thing. So you have to kind of wonder what happened to Minneapolis. We were wondering this the other day. It used to be one of the nicest cities in the world. It's not anymore. We just got this text from someone who's in Minneapolis. Quote, "This place is a freaking disaster. I can't believe anyone would live here. Shootings galore. I'm afraid to even go to the Mall of America." So that got us thinking we should go to Minneapolis and see what it's like. But then we found out that Laura Ingraham, and not for the first time, had beat us to it. And she was already there. So she's about to join us live from Minneapolis. She just went to the 3rd precinct, which is still abandoned after it was destroyed by rioters. She spoke to one officer who went back to the scene for the first time since those riots of 2020. Watch.
I think one of the biggest challenges is just working with the deficit of officers, working on rebuilding the trust with the community, working on getting more cops to help us, and working with what limited resources we have now.
Has the activist movement, which always seems to, in my view, be biased against law enforcement, has that made your job more difficult on a daily basis, just interacting with regular folks?
Oh, absolutely. And the more of that gets put out in the media, it makes it tough for us to actually just do our jobs without being harassed and cameras in our face when we're just trying to work. I mean, we're not trying to take away anybody's rights. We're just trying to do our job.
So as we said, Laura Ingraham has been on this story, beat us to it. She's the host, of course, of the Ingraham Angle, 10 p.m. Eastern. She's going to have a lot more on Minneapolis on our show tonight, but she's going to join us right now for a preview. Laura, thank you for doing this. What's your sense of how Minneapolis is doing?
Well, I was so sad, Tucker. I've been coming to Minnesota for, 12 years every summer. As I have college friends here. I've gotten to know the city. Other parts of the state, and it's such a great state. It's this amazing people here. It's kind of quirky politically, as we know. But I was here shortly after the riots, and it was, as you can imagine, a total disaster. All businesses at total loss, burned to the ground, still smoldering, 3rd precinct abandoned. So I thought a couple of years later, let's go back. I was stunned at how bad it is in certain parts of Minneapolis. 3rd precinct, they're still operating out of a school. They don't even have a permanent presence, a permanent building structure in Minneapolis to this day. This is like 26 months after Floyd was killed. And you can feel it in the officers. They're trying to, put on a brave face, and they're great people. But can you imagine having a deficit of 300 law enforcement in a city that is, we're seeing burgeoning crime, violence, even near the University of Minnesota, which is a great school. They're having problems there. So this has got to be addressed, and you're going to need a real change in political leadership to do it. But it's very sad and infuriating, and as you reported at the time, and I did too, all too predictable. All too predictable.
What's weird is that big companies paid for these riots. We put the list on the screen many times, but they haven't paid to rebuild one of America's nicest cities that they destroyed. So where's the Nike and Google and Facebook fund to rebuild Minneapolis?
Some of the larger companies have rebuilt, like near that precinct. I think there's a Target, and there's Cub Foods and a couple of others. But sort of the smaller businesses, as usual, Tucker, get the short end of the stick. And I think some black-owned businesses have gotten some help. But, I mean, I am shocked. One diner I'm going to take people to is actually Derek Chauvin actually worked above it in the club above it. That was burned to the ground. So I go to that same location. I said, well, where's the rebuild? It's just like weeds. It's a whole lot of weeds now.
Unbelievable.
Nothing's been done. Shocking.
So they destroy the city. They put this cop in prison for the rest of his life. We all have to pretend he committed murder, which he didn't. But whatever, we have to pretend it. And then they leave, and they move on to the next thing to destroy. So perfect. Laura Ingraham, I appreciate the fact that you're on this story and your report from there tonight. Thanks so much. We'll see you at 10